opening spiel because there's actually a few things I need to talk about before we get rolling with the show. So I figured I would do those first, and then we will advance a little bit, and we will get to where we need to be. There we go. And we'll see where Curtis is when I finish this. So, good evening. Welcome. This is the Writers Guild at Bloomington second Thursday spoken word series. My name is Tony Brewer, and along with Kyle Kloss and Joan Hawkins, we co-produced this series on behalf of the Writers Guild. We're sponsored in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, the Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association, as well as our wonderful hosts here at Bonfett and the Backspace Gallery. The Writers Guild of Bloomington wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities native to this region and recognize that Indiana University and the city of Bloomington is built on indigenous homelands and resources. We recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land. I had a handful of announcements that I wanted to get through at some point tonight. Third Sunday Write is a virtual space where you can find writing prompts and the company of other writers. This is a private Facebook page to respond to prompts that are posted monthly. For more information or to join the group, contact Shauna Ritter at shauna747@gmail.com, and please include Third Sunday in your subject line. Coming up on Saturday, November 16th, is the Writers Guild monthly business meeting. That's right, business. This is a business meeting for a not-for-profit, if that's your thing. And that is at the Monroe County Public Library downtown at room 214 on the second floor. We also use Google Meet to meet if you're interested in that. That is 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, November 16th. Also this weekend, Firehouse Follies, sponsored in part by the Writers Guild of Bloomington. Our show this time is called Keep Bloomington Weird. That is Sunday, November 17th at 2 p.m. at the John Waldron Arts Center. Tickets are available through the Buskirk Chumley Theater box office. The Follies is a live broadcast performance featuring audio plays and comedy sketches by the Mighty Firehouse Art Players, music from Kid Kazooie and the Four Alarm Orchestra, special musical guest Krista Detour, and poetry created by yours truly, Indiana's literary champion, Tony Brewer. That's right, I'm going to make a poem on demand for someone during the broadcast, which is going to be a challenge, but I'm going to make it happen. We're going to do everything right before your ears. We're going to do the interview, I'm going to make it, I'm going to type it up right there. It's going to be nerve-wracking for everyone, mostly me. The night will also be, I think our narrator and host for the show is Yael Cassander. You might remember from her time at WFIU. So that is the Firehouse Follies, Sunday, November 17th at 2 at the Waldron. Next Wednesday, November 20th, a special celebration. The Runcible Spoon celebrating Ginny Kander at the Runcible Spoon there on 6th Street at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, November 2nd. Owner Matt O'Neill wanted to celebrate poet and Bloomington literati fixture Ginny Kander, who passed away on October 8th. And the Spoon is hosting this event and providing food and drinks. Poets are encouraged to read from her work or their own work, perhaps something inspired by Ginny, as many of you are and were. All are welcome, and we would love to see you there. Again, that's Wednesday, November 20th at 6 at the Spoon. Coming up on Sunday, November 24th, the last Sunday poetry reading and open mic. That is Sunday, November 24th at 7 at Morgenstern Books over there on Auto Mall Road, featuring Carrie Troutman, poets Carrie Troutman from Ohio and Shannon K. Winston. As always, an open mic to follow. And then it's December already, almost. First Sunday prose reading series and open mic, Sunday, December 1st at Juniper Art Gallery down there on Kirkwood at 4, featuring Angela Jackson Brown, also with an open mic to follow. And just two more things, our annual business meeting, potluck and open mic again, business. If you haven't had enough, there's some more business for a 501c3 not-for-profit, the Writers Guild of Bloomington. That is Sunday, December 14th at 1 o'clock at the University Baptist Church. we'll be doing our officers election as well, so you don't want to miss a moment of that. That is Sunday, December 14th. It's actually a great time. It's a chance to kind of meet everyone who's involved with the guild that does all this stuff throughout the year, because it's also a potluck and it's also an open mic. We try and keep the business to a dull roar, you know. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is right here next month on Thursday, December 12th at 6 p.m. right here in the Backspace Gallery will be our final installment for this here second Thursday spoken word series for 2024, featuring Pete Vinch, poet Pete Vinch, and our own Joan Hawkins doing spoken word and music by our good friends Ortet. A lovely ensemble, a lovely rock and teenage combo that you're sure to love, and of course open mic to follow. Pretty much everything we do includes an open mic component. All of this information is available on our website or by liking/following us on, I don't think we're doing X anymore, but it's there, so on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, we should get a blue sky, that seems like what's happening, is everyone is migrating over to blue sky. But also Instagram or Facebook, that's kind of our main hookup. Or you can sign up for our newsletter, and our fantastic president and leader, April Ridge, will craft a newsletter just for you. So check us out at Writers Guild Bloomington, all one word, writersguildbloomington.com. Where are we at? Has Curtis made it into the building at this point? I'm sure he's looking like all of us. He's looking for space. He's looking for a place to be. All right, well, I think what we might do then, we're gonna do the first half of our open mic. Are people cool with that? We're gonna start with the first half of our open mic, and we'll see where Curtis gets us to. So, if you're ready, this may take a moment, but I think our first open mic what's happening? There's something happening at the front of the store. This is, I guarantee you, this is mostly awkward for me. Everybody else is fine. You got to get great. With a great looking crowd. And I really appreciate you coming out on a kind of a dreary, cold November rain. What's going on, Kyle? You're shrugging. Okay, so we're going to move to the open mic portion of the evening. We'll start off with our first open mic participant. She'll need a little assistance getting up here, I think. Antonia Matthew.
I didn't count on starting this august evening. I've got two pieces. One is, I guess I would call it a prose poem, and it's seasonal. A very recent memory, yesterday's trick and treating. Have you ever been passed over by trick and treaters? The little orange lanterns are out by the step. The fake pumpkins shine brightly from small bulbs inside. Battery candles are in the front windows, and the screen doors propped open with an orange traffic cone. I hear voices, and dressed in my white owl black t-shirt, go to the door holding out my bowl of treats to be greeted by waves and pass by. And I have the appropriate junk in my bowl. Snickers, Twix, Butterfingers, Kit Kat. Gone are the days of small packets of chips or smaller packets of nuts. They always ended up at the bottom of the bowl. But enough trick-and-treaters did come, and I shivered and exclaimed and laughed and thanked them for coming out in the rain. There was a fish not quite out of the water in the rain, an angel with phosphorescent wings, a grim reaper, a perky squirrel. Now there would have been a customer for nuts. A grubby toddler in a miniature red cheerleader's uniform, grabbing her too large skirt with both hands. until she plunged both hands into the bowl of treats and her sister had to catch her skirt as it fell down. With what wicked delight the toddler grinned up at me. I was reminded, as I always am, another memory, that first evening I spent with my Oklahoma in-laws was Halloween, and I, from England, where Halloween was not celebrated, we were all gearing up for Guy Fawkes Day, wondered, as kid after kid in various states of dress-up knocked at the door shouting, "Trick or treat," and my in-laws went to the door and, exclaiming in pleasure, handed out candy. What sort of country is this? But to return to 2024, the coup de grace of the evening happened when it was really dark. A knock on the door, I opened it, and there, glowing out of the darkness, was the scream. I was astounded and cried out, "Oh my God, the scream!" Luckily, this was an old child, and it took a moment for me to collect myself. Then I laughed and said, "You're marvelous, you made my evening." And it took a candy and floated on its way. And the second piece was written before the election, but it seems that there's only a limited amount of time I can read it, so I'll read it now.
Right, go for it.
To talk about trees. With Adrian in these times, I can only talk about trees. That one tall cedar in the old woods, standing out among the deciduous ones. The one tree the crow perches in, cries hoarsely to the students walking through the old woods, or on curving paths on the way to classes. A calm here in this old part of the campus. Unlike the flood of crowds silently rushing across a wide, busy street to push on between bare soccer fields, the modern bell tower, and only scattered trees. Here it's not Rich, but Eliot who wrote, "I did not think death had undone so many." And this November the 3rd, 2024, 2 days from November 5th, Election Day, a day in England celebrated by burning an effigy of a traitor to king and country. Eliot's ominous words lead me to cling to the hope that this election will not undo us, that we not become a nameless, voiceless crowd, but remain individuals walking alone or with a friend, quietly talking, hearing the crow under the trees of the old woods. Thank you.
Thank you, Tonya. Thank you for opening for our event this evening. Curtis, what do you think about, do you need a moment? Or do you want to roll right into it? I could fill for a moment, or we could bring up another open mic participant. We just got rolling with the open mic, so we can, whatever you're feeling at this moment. Like you literally just walked in, so, say again?
You want to do the open mic and then have us go after that?
Why don't we do half the open mic,
Okay, that's
and
fine.
then, does that work?
Yeah.
Cool, okay. So, so I will do like three more open mic participants, and then we will have our features. How about that? Next up, please welcome Terry Sloan.
I had kind of a dry spell where I went writing, and I went to New Orleans over Halloween, and this was one of the results. Ain't no writing from the zone of comfort. New Orleans. This city's fetid fecundity swaddles me like a sweaty blanket to contain the impending explosion. Like a balm to the bomb, it dampens the impulse, too at home in my body, too content in my mind, too settled in my spirit. Looking out on a city, crumbling and decaying, barely able to keep its ass out of the Mississippi, its head above Pontchartrain. I know the razor's edge balance of perfection when it scrapes along my bones. And this is my election political poem called Just Desserts. The totality of everything is mostly nothing. Although this makes anything precious and unique, the void don't care. Good, evil, up, down, fevered figments of an overheated anthropocentric imagination. Be careful what you don't ask for, because you're probably going to get it. My advice? Don't ask, tell. This is a plea for submission to Poetry to the People. It's called The Perfection of Poetry Through Subtraction. Too much, too much. Less of more, more of less. Whack off a piece, grind some more, crack the kernel to expose the core, polish to perfection. This is a poem for John Picker's Wanted a Tree poem. I was in New Orleans and there were lots of live oaks whose limbs sag down and reach the ground and reroot. It's called In the Land of the Live Oak. Seeking to buoy misty spirits, bearing sacred messages, branches reach to join the earth to sky. Limbs so long, cruel gravity insists they bend and find only earth again.
Sweet, thank you, Terry. Next up, please welcome James Dorr.
Well, I'm just going to read one poem. And this also is perhaps appropriate for a while after the election. It's a poem about an American icon. That is called Bat Crazy. The Cape Crusader, but what was to crusade? It's not what it was in the Middle Ages, to bring one's religious beliefs to Gaza and spots thereabout, or any beliefs. Did such things even still matter? As Batman, a battler of costume criminals, though far from a bringer, rather to banish, to dismiss, destroy extra-legal activities, we all wore disguises then back home in Gotham. Salina, dear Salina in feline garb, others in top hats with feathers as well, as if some Antarctic bird. Ones who asked riddles, as if it was not that all life is a riddle. But here now, my clothes a Hawaiian shirt, swim shorts, I languish in Florida, and what should be a tranquil retirement, surrounded by would-bes in scarlet ball caps in the shadow of not some Disney World, but Mar-a-Lago, defeated by initials MAGA, proclaiming the destruction of truth and justice, may one even say the American way. While elsewhere others we should admire are raising a present-day Gaza, university campuses explode. Can even the Riddler decipher this rune?
Thank you, James. Please welcome now Joe Coleman.
Nice. Okay, a birthday party. She is floating as always above the landscape, which in this case is a room. I wonder if it's in Moscow or Vitebsk, where Chagall went to marry Bella and painted Birthday, a copy of which dreams hazily on my living room wall. And it must be the woman's birthday, since she's holding a bouquet with stems that look like legs, as her legs thick at the calves and stockinged and shoed, drift over an orangish carpet. And the man, Chagall, floats too, even higher, his feet askew and back curled into an impossible flip, his neck hooked and face turned to kiss the somewhat puckered lips of his lover. And I always assume in all the years we've had this framed that the man was chasing the woman and closing his eyes in the bliss at having achieved his love, her eyes open in surprise perhaps. But this morning, in the grinding ache I get when my love and I are at odds over who wants what and who did what for whom, it occurs that she may be pulling the man in this direction, forcing him to twist his body with the gravity of her mouth socketed to his eyes closed in surrender, and hers wide with some mission, hungered after with the same urgency as his love. And the push and pull lifts these two into the air, and that's what makes it a celebration. I kind of picked some romantic ones. It's kind of odd to be doing this after the election, but a little out of place maybe, but there's some hope, I suppose. Crossings. A folded leaf on a sidewalk that looks like a butterfly about to take off. But then it does, and so you revise, a butterfly poised for flight that looks like a folded leaf. And you see what leaves and butterflies share after a lifetime knowing what they don't. That chlorophyll courses through the veins of a leaf, while butterflies don't grow on trees, but burst from a chrysalis, while leaves unfurl on the branch. And now they can take the place of each other on a sidewalk in September. And now the world is studded with such crossings. A branch in the street becomes a snake. A stop sign overgrown with ivy has become a tree. How each thing rules its separate domain, but how sweet their blendings, as the right side of the bed for her and the left for you, and in the shared and nameless territory of the center.
We're going to have one more open mic participant, then we'll get to our features. Please welcome up Kitty Ichimori.
Hi. Hi, I'm from Japan. I'm Kitty Ichimori. I've been living here 15 years. Nice meeting you. Okay, I'll read my poem. America. Am I connected with you enough? You and I are so intertwined, like two tangled necklaces in an old jewelry box. When I first met you, I fell in love immediately, even before I fell in love with my American husband. I landed in San Francisco and crossed your vast body, traveling south to LA, across to El Paso, and all the way to New York. Transferring between Greyhound buses, I always sat in the front seat, staring at the endless rows stretching on in light and darkness. I was 20 years old. At the times, I really hated you because you didn't treat me well. Once, I worked at the Benihana, a Japanese steakhouse in Hartford, Connecticut. A customer made fun of my pronunciation. I meant to say, please sit here, but instead it came out as, please sit here. laughing each time entertained. His girlfriend finally had to stop him. What could I do? I didn't say anything back then. I couldn't. I wore black slacks and a white shirt, kept my hair in a ponytail, and worked hard. I carried an enormous tray with heavy plates and glasses, and quickly learned how to manage, thanks to a tough, slender Vietnamese girl, my boss, who showed me the way. During breaks, I read Raymond Carver, and she would laugh at me. I raised my children here, though they chose Asia to live and work. But America and me, we've learned to accept one another. Now, feels like the best time for us. It's like we're soulmates, aren't we? Do I have time to read another one more?
Sure.
Day of the Dead at Casa Gonzalez. Seafood runs the dining hall. Is a gatekeeper of a world where the living and the dead intermingle. The doors and windows are thrown open wide, and in her black wool coat, leather loafers, and crimson lipstick, she holds her thermos, pouring us Aztec cocoa, and gently inviting us into this world of blurred edges. On the outdoor terrace, a table draped in orange cloth is laid with bananas, chicken mole, candies for the children, and small ceramic skulls. Colorful papel picado flags flutter between the buildings, and at the entrance, a skeleton stands, guiding the spirits as they arrive. We, the guests, start with the pineapple, then move to the main dish, eggs with red and green sauce, dipping conchas, the sweet bread, into cocoa between bites. As we eat, spirits drift around us, sometimes blending so closely it feels as if they are tasting our food too. Who are these spirits? Were they once guests here, who never woke from their sleep? Or maybe long before this place became an inn, they were the ones who lived and worked here, farmers, soldiers, dancers, prostitutes, children, beggars, hunters, or perhaps they are strangers with no connection to us at all, simply drawn here by something unseen gathering, just like fish hooked on the line. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kitty. All right, we will have the second half of our open mic after the break. At this point, I want to bring up all three of our features because we're going to do something a little different from what we normally do. Instead of doing boom, 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 1, 2, 3, all three of them are going to come up and do sort of a round robin. And I'm going to introduce the man of the hour, who I'm going to turn it over to, and he's going to tell you what all this is all about. Curtis Crisler, Curtis L. What does the L stand for?
Leroy.
Leroy, okay, fantastic.
Or Leroy, if my
Leroy.
mom's mad at me.
Gotcha. Curtis Crisler, was born and raised in Gary, Indiana. His book, Doing Drive-Bys on How to Love in the Midwest, won the C&R Press Award for Poetry. His other books include, with Kevin McKelvey, Indiana Nocturnes, A Rural and Urban Patchwork, The Gray Album Poems, a steel-toed books open reading period selection, Don't Moan So Much, Stevie, a Poetry Musiquarium, This, Ameri-can-ah, and Pulling Scabs, which was nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Curtis is professor of English at Purdue University Fort Wayne, and he is the current Indiana State Poet Laureate. Please welcome Curtis Crisler.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. Invigorated. So we want you to be invigorated up here because it's about to get invigorating in a second. Thank you, Tony, for having us in your space and letting me do the pop-up Indiana Chitlin Circuit. So this is based off the original Chitlin Circuit, and I'll just use the information Tony had on the flyer. The Indiana Chitlin Circuit is based on a historical Chitlin Circuit that sprouted during the period of Jim Crow segregation. African American performers were necessarily allowed to share a stage with white performers, unless Bix Beiderbecke and Louis Armstrong did after-hour joints in Chicago, and they didn't know about it. So that's how you. And our Madam C.J. Walker Theater is one of the places that was a stop for it. A network of live entertainment venues in the U.S. emerged that catered to Black audiences and Black entertainers. So this was a place where you can go on the circuit and you can sell your wares, you can jam with the other people that you are coming to meet. They'll put you up, put a little money in your pocket, and then you go to the next place. And since it was soul food that they were eating a lot of times, that's where the Chitlin Circuit thing comes from. But we also get chicken and waffles from that, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody wants breakfast, somebody wants dinner, and then voila. So those things are happening. What we're gonna do is 3 spots, sessions, where the first one is round robin. So we have to pick who's gonna go first. It's gonna be Ross, Hiromi, who goes first. And they're gonna set up whatever they read, the other 2 are feeding off of that. And we're just feeding off of that for 20 minutes. And then the second session, yeah, poets hate this part. Because we come with our set list, and we're just, I come with this poem, my second poem is gonna be butter, they're gonna kill me. Yeah. And this blows all that shit. So, so unfortunately, you just need to have enough poems. So that's the first part. Then the second part, we have 3 individual solos where each person gets 10 minutes. And then the last one is where we'll read a poem by a poet, line by line. Each person reads a line, and then we all read the last line together. And then we'll go into the second part of the open mic.
We'll take a little break.
Okay. So, Ross and, well, we have to introduce ourselves first. So I'm gonna have them come up, and then we're gonna introduce each other, and then the first person is gonna go. We're just gonna get into it. Yeah, so you can just read our bio. So you could do, I guess you do mine. And Ross, hers is the yellow paragraph.
Okay.
So, and I'll do Ross. And all you're doing is introducing.
Wait, I'm totally confused. You're doing Ross, I'm doing you.
You're doing this.
Got it, all right.
So yeah,
Author of one full-length poetry collection and 4 poetry chapbooks, Hiromi Yoshida is a finalist for the New Women's Voices Poetry Prize and a semi-finalist for the Gerald Cable Book Award. While serving as a poetry reader for Flying Island Journal and as secretary of the Writers Guild of Bloomington, she coordinates the Guild's last Sunday poetry reading series.
Curtis L. Crisler was born and raised in, what?
No, go ahead.
Actually, shouldn't be doing it again, right?
No, you're fine.
All right.
Ignore me, I'm not here. I'm just moving the mic around.
Curtis L. Crisler was born and raised in Gary, Indiana. His book, Doing Drive-Bys on How to Love in the Midwest, won the C&R Press Award for Poetry. This was just read earlier, so
It's fine.
kind of weird instinct to do it again. His other books include Indiana Nocturnes, or Rural and Urban Patchwork, the Gray album with funky font poems, Steel Toe Books Open Reading Period Selection, Don't Moan So Much, Stevie, a Poetry Musiquarium, This Ameri-can-ah, and Pulling Scabs, nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Crisler is professor of English at Purdue University Fort Wayne. He is the current Indiana State Poet Laureate.
Ross Gay is the author of 4 books of poetry, Against Which, Bringing the Shovel Down, Beholding, winner of the PEN American Literary Gene Stein Award, and Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude, winner of the 2015 National Book Critics Circle Award and the 2016 Kingsley Tufts Poetry Award. In addition to his poetry, Ross has released 3 collections of essays. The Book of Delights was released in 2019. It was a New York Times bestseller. Just saying. Inciting Joy was released in 2022, and his newest collection, The Book of More Delights, was released in September of 2023. So which one of you want to start it off?
I can start.
Okay.
That's all right? Okay. It's good to be here. It's good to be reading with you all. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah. Good to see you all. This is called Armpit. First, it's the balm of light sifting through the rafters of the old church from the neighborhood I'd break into, not for ruckus, but to sit and write my name in the dust on the pews and watch the pigeons roost beside the dozing and crooked eye of the stained glass window. The racket somehow of the street softened, but that maybe is another poem, because I'm trying to get to the awkward flock of flamingos soaring somewhere below my navel or in the back of my throat, or the small house behind my eyes suddenly lit up. When sitting in the library's silent reading room, above her small stack on seed saving and plant dyes and kangaroos, a bookish woman's hairy armpit flashes. It is summer, it is hot, and those flamingos. As a small boy, before the bus came, I'd leap into the bed beside my father and push my face into his armpit. His bird's nest, he called it, half smiling, with a book in one hand, smelling of the night shift at Pizza Hut, while my mother stood in the doorway on her way to work, mentioning something about dinner, or maybe the car, though the truth is I didn't listen. I just watched the light glimmer in drifts between the rafters, making glow somehow the wide pine boards and the dove up there, invisible, making those noises.
I'm just going off with a bird motif. When people lose each other, They turn into birds for Bretsky. This is a drunk poem, a caw, 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 for an ingenue in a sundress chunk of sky. She's a Cali girl, a ghetto bird dispersed, fumbling within the crosswinds of suffocation from Long Beach to Carbondale, her last flight to Eastern Lights. Now a Michigan babe, dressed in funeral garb, hugs an Indiana dude, dressed in funeral garb. Their arms adapt into wings, no matter. They wing around each other's body, a strange coup for the Cali girl born with Spanglish lungs. This is an anecdote poem, crash landing, transferring ghetto birds into humans who love humans, no matter. Now, the babe and dude are ghetto birds. Ghetto birds love ghetto birds, no matter. When ghetto birds cry, it sounds like a train's wheels still breaking. This poem breaks into a confetti parade of feathers. So many feathers, they rumble in the sky's throat, helicopter down like live blades. So many feathers. Ghetto birds feel paltry, but don't stride like chickens. Ghetto birds are nasty smooth, familiar like rum. Even if quiet quills are silent when they land, the babe and dude listen. So many silences ride on this frame. This is why ghetto birds warble September. This is why California is their verb, no matter.
All right, so continuing on with the bird motif. Icarus before the fall. Did he watch the strange seabirds pass over the Isle of Crete, yearning to emulate their long, wayward flight? Did he skip flat stones across the unruly, murky surface of the Aegean Sea, contemplating the next sullen supper of unleavened bread and charred meat? Did he watch his father sweating in his workshop, bending osier strips into strange compliance, shift his bored gaze toward pussy face, painted dolls? Did he hum words, ditties, replicating the buzz of flies that speckled his dinner plate? Did he press a conch shell to his tingling ear, hearkening to the soft roar of predestination? Did his driftwood stylus inscribe illegible Greek letters on wet beach sand, washed away at high tide by Poseidon's mighty hand? Silly, defiant son of Daedalus, did he glance skyward and see his unnamed mother, the smirking sun that receded past his greedy reach, green coin?
It's called throwing children.
Something we all want to do.
It is some miracle, some delight, when a kid who has a hard time becomes a kid who's having a good time, in no small part thanks to you throwing that kid in the air again and again. On a mile-long walk home from the Indian joint, as her mom looks sideways at you like, you don't need to keep doing that. Because you're pouring with sweat and breathing a little bit now, you're getting a good workout, but even though it's sometimes very hard for you to believe, you say, I'm good, I'm good. Because the kid laughs like a horse up there, laughs like a kangaroo beating her wings against the light, because she laughs like a happy little kid. And when coming down and grabbing your forearm to brace herself for the time when you will drop her, but you don't, and slides her hand into yours as she says for the 40th time, the 50th time, inexhaustible her delight, again, again and again. And you say, give me till the redbud tree, or give me till the persimmon tree, because she knows the trees. And so quiet you almost can't hear. Through her giggle, she says, okay, to the next tree, when she explodes, howling, yanking your arm from the socket, again, all the wolves and mourning doves flying from her tiny throat, and you throw her so high she lives up there in the tree format. She notices the ants organizing on the bark and the bumblebee carousing the little unripe persimmon in its beret. She laughs and laughs as she hovers up there like a bumblebee, like a hummingbird up there giggling in the light, like a giddy little girl up there the world knows how to love.
You're working this, man. This is playing off of the children. It's called Sleeper Cells, A Father Implants Life Maps for Dwayne and Roger. When most men bend crooked like rivers, and every chest hair reminds you of your uncle, the grunt, your grandpapa, you mesmerize at your father like he, the sweet crumb of cornbread, trapped in his own black beard. You don't wonder. You are too young to tag all the wins and losses, the many daddies dropping. These moments vesperize, jumping crystals before halogen car lamps. How you are now, no more twinkle and inkling, real motion, gaining forward balance with each wobbly step. Dad's rich with smiles. You are in his optics, measuring his future. His tunnel vision enlarges, replete with glad tensions of gives and takes, tensions of planted bluebells and lullabies, growing into tomorrow things. He does this grooming, this watering with tears, this talking, so his child moves beyond semi-precious, becomes valued minerals exploding in the earth, rich with runoff, grows to outlaw the jaded of world's dubiousness. You, child, are neo-tsunami, the cockabur within hot verbs against stasis, the moon's electric bill receipt. He has prepared you for next Saturday's rebellion. Touch your face in photo album. It's each and every belief.
I feel like I should continue with the theme of children, but I really don't have anything, and I don't want to be a pooper, but the only thing I have is this. Sylvia's miscarriage. What mass of fetal tissue slipped through her? Elliptical illusion. Pink cup with no lid. Opening tulips. Suddenly shut. Mouthless. That slippage was beaten out of her like egg yolk, allegedly, streaming into the petri dish of public scrutiny for additional dissection. Glossy marginalia gathered from overflowing archives. Question marks, unfurled red, swirls in formaldehyde jars. Bleeding fetal onomatopoeia and other dyslexic lexicons and Sylvia's. Unbaked loaves are cold hard nunnery tombstones in her catacomb oven. Her tabloid story unraveling again, feeding breadcrumbs to voracious media vultures.
This is called Poem to My Child, If Ever You Shall Be. And it's after the poet Steve Scafidi. The way the universe sat waiting to become, quietly in the nether of space and time, you too remain some cellular snuggle dangling between my legs, curled in the warm swim of my mostly quietest self. If you come to be, and who knows, I wonder, little bubble of unbudded capillaries, little one ever a swirl in my vascular galaxies, what would you think of this world that turns itself steadily into an oblivion that hurts, and hurts bad? Would you curse me, my careless, caressing you into this world? Or would you rise up and, mustering all your strength into that tiny throat that one day, no doubt, would grow big and strong, scream and scream and scream until you break the back of one injustice, or at least get to your knees to kiss back to life some roadkill? I have so many questions for you. For you are closer to me than anyone has ever been, tumbling as you are this second through my heart's every chamber, your teeny mouth singing along with the half-broke workhorse's steady boom and gasp. And since we're talking today, I should tell you, though I know you sneak a peek sometimes through your father's eyes, it's a glorious day. And there are millions of leaves collecting against the curves, the ginkgo leaves, in fact. And they're the most delicate shade of gold we've ever seen, and must favor the transparent wings of the angels you're swimming with, little angel. And as your mother, well, I don't know. But my guess is that lilac bursts from her throat, and she is both honeybee and wasp, and some kind of moan to boot, and probably she dances in the morning, but who knows? You'll swim beneath that bridge if it comes. For now, let me tell you about the bush called honeysuckle, that the sad call a weed, and how you could push your little sun-licked face into the throngs and breathe and breathe. Sweetness would be your name. And you would wonder why 4 of your teeth are so sharp and the tiny mountain range of your knuckles so hard. And you would throw back your head and open your mouth at the cows lowing their human songs in the field, and the pigs swimming in shit and clover and everything on this earth, little dreamer of the new world, holy. Every raindrop and sand grain and blade of grass worthy of love and love and love. Tiny shaman, tiny blood thrust, tiny trillion cells trilling and trilling, little dreamer, little hard hat, little heartbeat, little best of me.
Just a love kind of thing coming out of that, playing with. And this is called Gangster Love for all the John Michel Basquiat's. Everyone know who Basquiat is, right? Okay. I wouldn't want to know you on drug days when you were in a stupor of dumb thought and I had to clean you up. Take off the pissy pants and underwears, the vomited on t-shirt your moms gave you that's too little, but it's love. The discord of language you spat out like a Tourette-induced aggravation. I wouldn't want to know you on the mad days where you throw paint against old canvases and let the music of Vivaldi or Grandmaster Flash push you into locomotion because critics critiqued you all wrong. I wouldn't want to know the man who couldn't put the love on his woman and was always kicked to the curb with her abusive foot to the groin reverberations of letdowns. And on any given moon, I would sit by the bed while you slept off the voices, look into a world of your paint splatters, love you back to raw.
I'm going to respond to just one word from that poem, and that is piss. Piss Icarus. Icarus plunges into a vortex of amniotic fluid and formaldehyde. Drowning merboy with outspread wings, crucified, a marinated albatross. The roiling Aegean Sea was an oil-painted repository of flux of jetsam, urine leaking from tight bathing trunks, and the pissed-off centuries of centaurs galloping toward a strange sea of light. Glimmer of flowering anemone. Sea waves caressing briny beaches with hoary fingers combing tangled mermaid hair. And Icarus drifting suspended in opacity green, replica of Serrano's Christ.
Ode to drinking water from my hands. Which today, in the garden, I'd forgotten I'd known, and more, I'd forgotten I'd learned, and was taught this by my grandfather, who, in the midst of arranging and watering the small bouquets on mostly the freshest graves, saw my thirst, and cranked the rusty red pump, bringing forth from what sounded like the gravelly throat of an animal a frigid torrent. And with his hands he made a lagoon from which he drank, bless you, from which he drank, and then I drank, before he cranked again, making of my hands now a fountain, in which I can see the silty bottom drifting while I drink, and my grandfather waters the flowers on the graves, among which are his and his wife's, unfinished and patient, glistening after he rinses the bird shit from his wife's, and the pump exhales, and I drink to the bottom of my fountain and join him in his work.
Awake plays on the work. We barefoot on this red plot. So in need her hips and thighs, tender with her old loins. See, she our young days, we her blue skies.
This is responding to drinking and women, but in a different way, in a more adult way. Cheap champagne. Allegedly, his oil shares in Texas had made him the pampered millionaire at the Kit Kat Club, where he ordered overpriced, dubious champagne. They were out of Dom Perignon. Swiny pearls bubbling out of his frothy, replenished glass. He stared at the puddle on the round formica table, waxing into the gold sea, where he saw Venus rising like a premature hard-on, smirking over her alabaster shoulder, replicating the orchestrated choreography of topless dances gyrating on the vast, tinseled stage before him. The pimping manager and the fake blonde hostesses milked him like the obese golden calf till he slumped backward in his tilting chair, inert mountain of flabby graying flesh. The plump, expert cocktail waitress, concerned she might never receive the fistful of $100 bills she'd expected for her service, the green number sliding down her chunky sequined legs into the Times Square sewers, standing in for the open mouths of swine breeding in the Kit Kat Club's overflowing cash registers.
Okay, that is the end of our first round. Thank Ross for joining us. A lot of people, when we do this, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm gonna steal that. I was like, yes, please do. I didn't make it up, I just found it, but to me, it plays off like when, in the aspect of the Chitlin Circuit, when someone comes there and Muddy Waters is jamming with someone else at the juke joint that they're at, and they all get to play together, kind of thing, and we're just doing it in poetry. So now, we have our solos. And since Ross went first last time, Hiromi, we have 10 minutes apiece. It's all you.
Okay, all right.
For 10 minutes at least.
Icarus burning. The Aztec heart of the sun blazes. a rush hour trail of amniotic blood. Across skyscraping altars of plexiglass horizons, shimmering in the golden crucible of salt-lit red sea tides. And questions pickled in formaldehyde jars. X-rated carbon copies of bones bleaching on perforated clotheslines. Twisting a ticker-tape dance through the magnetic plush of anemone fingers reaching into oversized manila envelopes. Sanctified Valentine, the utero streets. The seedy pulp of sunflower high noons in boxed lunch offices with red, flowering sushi and lacquerware. Stick in the polluted pollen of viscous fat. Ethereal kimono silk dilating to dimensions of premature prognosis. The broken beat of time, measured in silver teaspoons. Nauseating ether, and the siren song of drowning mermaids embroidering counterfeit gold rush fringe, stock exchanges. Coin-sized overreach, toward the numb vanishing point, decimated dollars, decapitated sex. And Icarus, minted in accolades of green, plunging into the copper plate sea of acidic tears, waxing toward the boiling point of the Hudson Horizon, of disheveled trees in Riverside Park, of sinking suns and new moons giving new birth to the fallen stars in the debris of night. The harlot's jewel case flung open at the neon feet of commuters surging through the turnstiles, roiling mass, Nikes and rollerblades and avian limbs, winging home on spiked Gatorade. Jelly lights splintering through the fluorescent eyes of the nymphomaniac Karen, needling through the needy night, murmurous, with the junky scroll of graffiti incantations rumbling through the groins of iconoclastic acolytes. Green, gangrenous, envy, and burning up. New apocalypse squeezing through the tinfoiled undergarments of transvestites chewing tinsel gum wrappers, gunshot wounds, bleeding a stigmata of spare, change, and jangling eyes, begging the bony hand to cast a jaundiced benediction of swine pearls. Twining rosary beads of perspiration through the tangled traffic of funereal arteries oozing green blood, light through the Eustachian tunnels, the bloodshot eye vessels blinking on jewel-strung highways, to AM radio static crackling through the dark of flying night, at ground zero, below sea level. All right, I wrote that poem in the wake of 9/11, obviously, and here is another one about that catastrophe. I feel like we are inhabiting or about to inhabit another catastrophic period in some kind of a neighborhood right now. Godwind. The planes deliberately collided into the World Trade Center. North and south towers, like steel-winged Icarus, twinned, burning. Kamikaze crashed, decimation, the shredded paper gods shedding the green pennies and white hair. The Manhattan skyline was a smoggy plexiglass altar where dreams were sacrificed to the rising sun, Thatch's smirking bastard. Pedestrians coughed, gagged, on the foretaste of phoenix ash. Black stench of needless apocalypse clogged nostrils, resurrection, an unwritten blueprint, drifting on wayward God wind. All right, now is the time to be as outspoken as we can before the next presidential administration begins, so here we go. Say her Asian name. Since her arrival in the United States of America, her Chinese name, whatever it had been, blurred away. A smudged sequence of ink-brushed ideographs signifying sounds uttered by tripping, anglicizing tongues, lopped into bite-sized ching-chong onomatopoeia off-key sing-song syllables, two Zen hands clapping. She was the Atlanta gunman's pathological symptom, his sin, his massage parlor whore, his orientalized desire victim, his paper china doll tucked away into stale fortune cookies. Incinerated after the spark of candlelight vigils in March 2021 ignited Stop Asian Hate hashtags. And her papery edges caught fire. The Asian American dream gunned down, no mountains of gold, Chinatowns oozing away, eliding glossy tourist pamphlets, sticky with chop suey fingerprints. Even now, she has no real Chinese name. Maxine Hong of Kingston's no-name woman. The spectral signifier rising from Phoenix ash. So say her Asian name, her no-name woman's name. Xiaojie, Emily, Tan. Xiaojie, a Mandarin prefix in slang for prostitute. Emily, a whitewashing parenthetical afterthought. She is the ideograph slipping away toward the lexicography of new hashtags. The smudgy marginal gloss, that drop of coagulated vigil candle wax. Paper money burning for the unappeasable gods, squatting on gold mountains. Okay, my final poem. As we approach Thanksgiving, this could be appropriate, and it's also in line with how much angst we feel about not being as outspoken as we can be after the next presidential inauguration. Thanksgiving 2003. Wade through panoramic multiplex, thickly cinematic and extra large wool underwear and slick outerwear. Treacherous circumnavigation. Disheveled mothers bulge sweatshirts and Victoria's Secret panty lines. Drip secrets from your steamy gravy pans and Martha Stewart ovens. Plastic ice cream spoons break off the 25% fat rate of DVD camcorders. Sprint and oscillating test run around baby limbs and untucked shirts over toddler tummies. Sprawling family-sized fast food picnics and makeshift corners of your local mall. Little Jack Horner is horny tonight and homeless in our secure homeland. Russian raid, dwindling merchandise stock while equal opportunities skyrocket to zenith, splurge of belch and cardiac tourniquet, constricted tight elastic circulation of commodity prices reaching beyond, lifeless livestock eyes grazing Indian grassland and blazing sunset horizon. Uprooted promises soaking up midnight dishwater. So let's stimulate the war economy with killer Walmart deals. While the president grins in the mess halls of Baghdad, festooned with orange crepe streamers and papier-mâché turkeys and rousing rustabout cheers for the vainglory of the United States of America. All hail to the President of America who flew in a clandestine, iconoclastic, rabble-rousing, ball-busting mission into the desiccated and desecrated desert areas of the occupied. All hail to the President's men who dispatched the dude with circumspect precision, like a precariously gift-wrapped Playboy bunny jumping out of a dynamo dream cake with rapid stun gun loin fire. All hail to the armed forces of America who ignited a long and messy camel trot toward iron-hammered emancipation of falling Viagra-powered suicidal limbs firing a vasectomy of blanks into a gallstone hailstorm, prefabricating applause and ironing out Fabergé Mirage curtains.
All right. I'm going to read a few little things here. And again, so good to, Curtis and I have known each other since 2003. You know that?
Yeah.
No, right?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
That's a long time. I'm just going to read a few things real quick. I'm going to read this up. This is called, it doesn't have a title. Dad taught me, she says, chop into 2 handfuls of okra into inch or so lengths, telling me to dice the garlic, which we both love, so 4 cloves, all of which comes from the garden. A little cooked onion from a bin, diced. The okra is a bumper crop this year. The flower's cosmic eyes studying us, studying each other. A bee cavorting with the dusty stamen, a study too. I snip with scissors so as not to snap the stems. The garlic paper rocks on the countertop like pages of a book. Flecks of soil on the cutting board. And Nan taught him, I guess. Okra, she called it, my Nan, as did her mother, who Nan calls Mama, though the kids, my dad, called Biggie. After the okra is chopped and the garlic, we pull 3 fat, ripe tomatoes from the plants just nicked with blight. Crazy for tomatoes, my mom. Tells me when she was a kid and sick on the farm, she'd crack open a jar of tomato juice her mom canned. Her mom canned everything, and chug it down. Chug is my word. She laughs, shakes her head. I look up from quartering the tomatoes and see again my mom is one of those people with windows in her eyes. Open windows and closed. Says, where's your pan? And when I reach for a frying pan, she says, no, a pot. Let's use a pot. I don't think she ever doesn't call me Rossi. Let's use a pot, Rossi. Puts the few glugs of oil in the warming pot, then the onion, a few minutes. She just knows when, then the garlic. I never knew Dad eat okra, I say. And she says, yeah, says he loved it. So much of what he loved, so much I don't know. Ate it as a kid. They called it okra, but not him, at least not around us. I wonder who my father was. The okra now, a couple minutes. Don't let the garlic burn. Does she ever cook and not think of him? Does she ever cook and not mourn? Okay, I think that's good. Put in the tomatoes. God, smell that. She makes noises at what is delicious, my mother. She hums sometimes or says yum. She's still talking to her granddaughters as babies. And listen, says something about the acid in the tomatoes and the okra, the slime. It cooks down and she gets the salt and black pepper and garlic powder. With my mom these days, it's always garlic powder, whatever. I chop the fish peppers and my mom says, oh, are they hot? And I say, yeah, I know, they're for me. This will all be over soon, so pay attention. Be devastated, I mean. on rice usually, but since you have this good bread. Stevie Wonder piece. Does anyone know the record, The Secret Life of Plants? Good. If you don't, it's beautiful. It's all about plants. And it was like a kind of soundtrack evidently to a movie, which I haven't seen, but I bet it's good. Come Back as a Flower, it's called. I wonder how often, if ever, art critics, film critics, book critics, dance critics, music critics, etc., knowing as they must how, hopefully, taste, like most everything else, changes in the human creature, knowing how, hopefully, most all of us can point to several pieces of art, or pieces of anything, which years ago we loathed but now loved, or at least like. We'll write something like, quote, and this art, film, book, dance, music, etc. today strikes me as bad, miserable, wretched, piss poor, confused, self-indulgent, wackadoodle, etc. But I can imagine, with a touch of discipline and knowing how things I've loathed previously I now love, or at least like, that in 10 years or 20, we will be discussing this art, film, book, dance, music, etc. in an entirely different light. We will have learned how to love it and why. And in so doing, in addition to expanding or deepening the reservoir of what we love, which is what we might call a fundamental good, perhaps even the fundamental good, we will have learned as well, again, as we must, again and again, a fundamental characteristic of the human creature and all else, which is that we change. End quote. I doubt very often. The editor, when I was writing that, was like, I don't know if they're going to know what you're talking about. Anyway, it's just weird to me the vitriol Stevie Wonder's The Secret Life of Plants got back when it came out. Maybe especially given how influential and beloved it has been to so many artists, over whom some have said critics, I bet you, have fawned, or would have in the meantime. Two things. I hope Stevie Wonder was already Stevie Wonder enough that the vitriol didn't hurt his feelings. And there is a plant called Tithonia, or Mexican sunflower, growing in the garden about 10 feet from where I sit composing this. A couple weeks ago, the flower had a single stem from which extended maybe 5 or 6 blooms, which, almost the second they opened, beckoned forth the hummingbird, or hummingbirds, all of whom I call, or who beckon forth from my mouth like a near whispered song, humming. Tithonia sports what might be called a daisy-ish flower. 5 or 6 it was a couple weeks ago, an orange so radiant it's near impossible to imagine, though that it's called also torch flower gives a hint. Thanks probably to the ample rain and heat, that Tithonia has since quadrupled or more in size, certainly in blooms, which flare on several new stems. Something about the way those stems radiate from the central stem has me searching in my mind for an architectural term, which, oh, here it is, Tithonial. The goldfinches too love Tithonia, and I watched the lady of a couple sit in a Tithonial crook until her less subtle fella swooped from the clothesline, and they went so ham on something in the blooms that made me first think, yo, leave some for Hummy, and then wonder, seeds? But I didn't see any in there, or don't think I did, not yet. Enough time looking at flowers and you realize how much you always don't see. I mean. Though I did see for sure some beetles, petite rhinoceri plowing slothfully through the blooms, which, like so many flowers, are a zillion flowers. And some butterflies walking daintily as fawns, and some bumblebees lumbering through, and some tiny bees alit with the pollen in their fanny packs. Lunch buckets, you might like to call them. So much plush nuzzling. I'm pretty sure it's a copyright infringement for me to quote too many of the lyrics to Come Back to the Flower, one of my favorite songs on that album and on this universe. So I'll paraphrase. The speaker looks upon the garden and has what one might call a mystical experience of oneness, and presumably understanding the flower as a site of undifferentiated life, they wish to return as one, upon which they'll be able to, quote, spread the sweetness of love. The singer is Sarita Wright, whose voice is something like the light coming through the Tithonia petals, something like the scent of the eddies of air between the Tithonia and the invisible wings of the hummingbird. In the second verse, one of the best vocalists of the last 2,000 years, Stevie Wonder, joins behind, or beneath really, in an almost inaudible but utterly necessary harmony. In a teaspoon of healthy loam, etc. Many flowers are many, many flowers, etc. But in the second verse, the copulatory dew and a honey-scented rainbow makes the speaker, please forgive this clumsy poetry talk, though it is solid lyrics that can bear it, envy the growing silence of the garden, and that it's, quote, so unmoved by things outside of themselves, end quote. Of course, it makes sense too, doesn't it? To read the song, to hear it, to sing it, to feel it, as a kind of prayer for who could never quite find the silence of flowers, or the stillness, for whom nothing could ever make them believe how much love, how much sweetness they spread upon the world. Prayer. Today I am thinking of it as prayer, his devotions, his labors, his laments he carried as his body, or his body carried as him. How be closer to you who has riven me, from you. How be unriven, and gave his only body to the prayer, as the prayer. And I'll just close with one more. I'm doing all right on time? I think I am right. It's called doubling. So I have all these syndromes in this book called Bringing the Shovel Down. It's my second book. And the syndromes are sort of like spoken in the, what's it called? The diagnostic DSM, the diagnostic something manual. What manual?
Something works.
Yeah. Something.
Diagnostic something.
Yeah. The syndromes, doubling. Patient most often has gradual onset beginning in middle to late adulthood, 30 years or older, with the possibility of onset at any age. The frequency of episodes can vary from occasional, 3 to 12 per year, to, in the severest cases, constant. Duration rarely exceeds a year, though intermittent recurrences, often of greater intensity than the initial presentation, are common, often misdiagnosed as macular degeneration. The syndrome is characterized in all cases by doubling, or the layered and concurrent scene of two discrete versions of a given object or person. The man's briefcase is also an intricately woven shawl of mandibles. The sleeping child's face is also crawling with ants. A flagpole is also a gallows. In the most acute presentations, one's hands are also one's hands. Thank you. I'm going to read probably just this poem, and it's the titular poem for my third young adult book for boys, and I've been writing a book for, well, it's going to be a trilogy for young adult girls. And the book is called Mama If, and this is the book is called Mama If and Other Boys' Voices. And this is the titular poem in the first poem. Mama, if you got this note, Tori gave it to you. I'm sorry you are hearing from me like a ghost. These are my words though. This is my voice, crossing over from wherever I'm hanging out now. I wrote this because my skin may have said hi to someone it didn't know and got me into some sweaty situation I knew nothing about.
Yeah, I know you think I can talk my way out of everything, but not this time, I'm thinking. Mama, I never put any thank yous on a plate for your birthday, for getting us out the projects and moving us into our house. I could see the fear blazing in your eyes like a bonfire on a sweet Saturday summer night. I could see I was everything of your life because you were all up in my face from night till day for small and wide occurrences, to check for smoke or wine. It's so funny because I don't do either. You checked anyway. My friends say you are the bloodhound they wish to have tracking them down. With all of that, we are still here. But know this, I am okay. I am okay with the time and the air and the love you have given me like you owed it to me. You owe me nothing. I owe you all my love. I never told you, but the bed you brought me is so comfortable. I never want to leave it in the morning. And it's the first thing I look forward to when I return home from band practice. The reason I love it, because it's the first possession that was mine. I had a huge bed, all for me. Not a day bed everyone sat on through the day and I had to sleep on at night, full of butt smells and dust particles. I never complained when we were in the jets, but the day bed got on my nerves. I think I can say that now. Knowing you will be enjoying it. Since I am not there, you did the same with Dad. That was a hard couple of years. It's funny how many times you tried to get me up for school, for chores, for errands, knowing I was a homebody, because of you. I know this hurts, and I never wanted to hurt you any more than you already hurt from when we lost Daddy for fighting in a land of sand and suicide bombers. I know I wasn't supposed to leave. I probably went to Tory's or down to the Walgreens for some Twizzlers, or took a walk by the bridge to watch the river rage. I never wanted to leave you, love. I told you I would never leave you alone. Something must have broke while I went to chill at Tory's house or hit up the Walgreens or kicked it like I was on fire on the wooden bridge above the dirty river. If anything, I watched the mallards peck at the swans and ate peeled off cherry Twizzlers. Maybe I played my clarinet. Maybe I played Nothing Compares to You. That's about the craziest I got. But you know me. So check my phone. Something you don't know, I've been scared and dreaming in color since Dad left us. Maybe my brown skin spoke its truth and shamed the devil before someone blew me up with microaggressions. All I know is I'm apart from you. All I know is I've told you I'd never leave. All I know is this is the hardest letter to write. All I know is I've tried to make it home, make it to my bed, make it to you, Mama. I hate missing your voice, love. Love, baby boy. Tori said, Miss Sherry, when I got there, baby boy was splayed like an angel fell from out the blue black sky. He was in his favorite pair of Levi's and that ugly blue shirt he got for his last birthday. I'm sorry, Mel, but I just didn't like that shirt. He loved it though. It had 2 dark holes in it. They were on his back. The holes made me stop full force. I just looked. His blood was all over. His blood was on the concrete, gray and maroon under those lights. I can't get that out of my head. My eyes have seen too much. I'm going to stop now, ma'am. Go on. You want to hear everything they didn't tell you? Okay, well, there's not much after that. I couldn't look at baby boy's face. It was away from me, and I think that may have been the best. I didn't want to see it. I wanted that stupid smile he wore like a mole on his body. I fell to my knees next to him, my eyes closed, full of tears. I could hear them say he had something in his hand. The only thing next to him, his clarinet mouthpiece, a bottle of water, and a half a bag of Twizzlers. It looked like he was on his way back home. I don't understand. I just don't understand now. What on that list looks like a gun? Oh, and I didn't see his phone. There was no phone. This is a new one. I lied to read this one. And this is called Intergalactic Love. And it's, yeah, this just came to me somehow. I think if my sister fell down into the softness of my backyard, music flowing with the pixie light, her body bending the slenderness of each blade of grass under its weight, the moisture of the dew saturating her skin, visceral tears from the ducts of African goddesses named for their virtues. Due to the inhospitality of history, I would want to die as well. Curl up beside her, feel my breath bounce back from her face to mine, making her real again. I would want to blow up the galaxy, rocket a starship into the blood moon, while the dark side sped up after me, jumping from galaxy to galaxy. To avoid the Sith only means so much death should mean so much life. To love too much is to love too much. Loss only means something got crazy. How crazy must I persist to see her voice fly, depart, and simultaneously Airbnb within my head, ricocheting for us, a residue of how we played as children, how we dreamed stars. And now for the last part. Is Ross the So, this is from Sherry Wagner from the Harmonist at Nightfall Poems of Indiana. And it's called Simon Pokagan and the Farmer. So you can hold this and you can be in the middle if you want to. And we're all gonna read. So what we're gonna do, Ross, you start off with the first line. I'll just read the epigraph. It says, this is only this page.
Okay.
Okay. So, in the 1870s, a well-educated Indian came to Lake County about twice each year to visit the graves of his ancestors. Kankakee Valley Historical Society.
I'll read the first one.
You read, you just read the first line, she reads the second,
Okay.
and then we'll just read the last whole thing.
Okay.
It's a short one as well.
From the way he squinted,
I knew that farmer had no iota.
What to make of me?
a savage in a tailored suit,
Who quoted Shakespeare and Tecumseh?
Spoke Potawatomi in Greek.
near juniper I prayed,
For those that cradled me, I spoke.
To steady their steps down slick.
ravines. I sang that their days,
Might be pleasant among heavens.
Herds of buffalo and elk.
one April I found the mounded,
Graves plowed under shin bones.
Stacked with field stones. I could have
splashed the kerosene of a curse,
But instead turned to offer.
my grief, a treeless prairie.
without periphery. Those bones,
Could be mine or his.
My tribe's revered flower.
the trailing arbutus,
Belongs to all who observe.
Its delicate white blossoms.
on bended knee.
As my gaze caught
Caught his, the farmer could only clear his throat as if pushing away dry leaves.
Thank you. Again, I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank Ross and Hiromi for being here. Thank Tony for having us in this space and doing this. And this is what the pop-up Indiana Chitlin Circuit is.
Give it up for Crisler once more. We're going to take a very brief break, have some snacks or have a drink, and mill about for a moment, and then we'll come back and have the second half of our open mic. Two things I wanted to mention on your way to the break is, one, this is a deserving 501c not-for-profit this year, Writers Guild of Bloomington, and we're taking donations tonight. There's a bunch of QR codes over there at the bar. If you're feeling donation-wise, feel free to use your device and give us some electronic funds. If you want to slip me a C note, I take cash. I take the phone money too, because I'm not proud. The other thing I wanted to, I'm proud, but I'll take your money anyway. The other thing I wanted to mention is the art on the walls and the poems on the walls are part of an exhibit called Yearning. All of the poems, it's not necessarily an ekphrastic exhibit. The poems don't necessarily, weren't written for the artworks there, but they have been curated and arranged. All of it is about yearning, and was all curated by the College of Arts and Humanities by a friend of the Writers Guild, Han Tambui, who was a recipient, I believe, in 2022 of the Riser Award that the Writers Guild gives out for students as well as writing teachers here in Bloomington. We give an award every couple of years to attend the IU Writers Conference, and Han Tambui was one of our recipients, and then she ended up curating this wonderful exhibit. They published a zine. I think there are copies of the zine around as well. So as you are milling about, feel free to observe and enjoy the art and poems on the walls as well. Come back in about 10 minutes and we'll have the second half of our open mic. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. We're good to go. All right. Thank you all for hanging out and showing out with us. We're going to finish up. We've got 5 more folks here in the open mic this evening. So first up here in part 2, please welcome Wendy Cartwright.
This is called I Fell.
Everybody gets a mic adjustment.
My parachute malfunctioned at 35,000 feet, and all the while falling at breakneck speed, my heart raced in the atmosphere, and I was breathless as you lit a candle and sang songs to the new me from your pedestal that I added stones to so that you could be high enough to catch me. But you never held your hands in the air, and I slipped through those fingers I love to hold. Seaweed wrapped around your ankles, kicked off like muddy shoes you never wore in the house. Lying on the ground, I bleed from the corners of my eyes and it runs down my face. And I just felt like this might fit. Indiana is for lovers. Melting like butter on a fresh hot biscuit, lifeblood flowing through veins as consistent as perfectly prepared gravy. No lumps except the one in my throat, loins tender as a rare steak and grill marks charred into my thick skin. My heart is in your teeth. You swallow and I choke.
Awesome, thanks, Wiggy. Next, please welcome Brian Price. Do you want to? This is perfect.
My father's 90th birthday was about a month ago, and so I wrote him this poem. And it's 90 years old. It only takes one of you to reach back to Roosevelt, two of you to stand next to our gold rush following great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather. Less than 6 90-year-olds to stare up in wonder at the ceiling of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. And it only takes 50 90-year-olds to chase the last woolly mammoth across the last flows of the Ice Age. You're really young. You've just gotten started. My father was in the hospital during on his birthday, unfortunately. The other thing he did is he told me he was getting married to an 87-year-old down the hall. So I thought I'd read a little piece about a second try at love. This is from my book, The Wrong Side of the River. This is The River Nymph. I bet you were a river nymph when you were a girl, I said. I bet you walked barefoot and naked in the sandy bottom creeks. I bet you collected trinkets from hunters' cabins. And I bet you made love to a local boy and you stole his soul. What if I did? What would you do about it? Wren Shelmerdine, the mayor, my mayor, I'd voted for a number of times. She said this as she began to comb and braid her long gray hair. I wish I was that boy, I said. I tested a little dust on the mantle, blew it off my fingertips. There were a number of photographs up there and a snow globe that said Moray Caverns, whatever that was. I took down one of the photos, tinted and dulled with a blackish gray ornate frame, a family portrait, a bearded man in a store-bought suit, polished shoes, a wife seated with a child in her lap, and 4 piercing pretty daughters in colored dresses and white lace standing behind him. One daughter had a hand on the father's shoulder. She looked a little bit like Wren. I looked at the back of the frame. It said 1873. What would you do without your soul? Would you give it away that easily, she said? Wouldn't you want it for something? Maybe you'd need it. Maybe it'd be worthwhile in a trade. She'd said, come on, that afternoon. She said she was tired of waiting for the dwindling number of broken, hopeful fools standing on the shore waiting, tired of looking across the stupid, thick river and staring into the mud and into the mist. She said, follow her, and I followed her. I'd follow her anywhere. I decided that. She wanted to show me something. We put on our heavy boots and sloshed up the road north of town. We walked by a closed gas station and a sign that pointed to the complaining cave. She led me halfway up the bluff at a steep angle on a path that was very carefully not a path. You weren't supposed to notice the path. And you weren't supposed to notice the cabin that was very carefully almost not a cabin. You could hardly see it through the tangled undergrowth. It was dusk by the time we arrived. The last of the orange-purple cloud sagged in the sky. The mayor found the key under a few leaves under the window ledge. I looked for a switch, but there was no switch. I looked for a lamp, and there were no lamps. This is where I grew up, she said. My father was a riding lawyer. He rode from town to town. He got paid in chickens and promises. My mother loved her books. She had a pretty, very pretty reading voice. I bet you were gorgeous way back then. And I'm not now. I'm not gorgeous. Of course she was gorgeous. She said, I don't do this often. I don't do this at all. And she led me to a single bed in the back. She said, lay down here beside me. Lay down straight. Lay down under this soft and brittle quilt. You can touch if you want. You can fumble around. I might touch back. I might not. It's been a long time, a lifetime. I ran my hand over her hip. There was a light scar. You always want to ask about scars. How'd you get that? Does it hurt? She stopped my hand. She patted my cheek. I'm kind of like the river, I guess, she said. I'm the ghost of gorgeous. The ghost of gorgeous. In the morning, I awoke wrapped up in a couple of dusty, brittle quilts on the oval rug on the floor at the foot of the bed. I sat up with my bare feet in the sunbeam coming through the back door. The mayor was looking in the mirror above the mantel, combing out and braiding her long gray hair. Where's your phone, she asked. I don't know, I can't find it. That's a pity, I wanted to look something up. Something about floods and tectonic plates and whether the earth can really crack in half. I always did appreciate you allowing me to borrow your phone. I know I was wearing the batteries down. And I said, oh, that's okay. But I always did worry about the batteries. She stared at another photo on the mantel, one of two sisters, maybe the two middle ones, or maybe the two youngest. She ran her fingers over it and she tapped the glass. Daphne was a dryad, part human, part sycamore. She was a foolish, bright girl. She seduced a young farmer. He left his wife, he left his children, he left his plow rusted in the edge of the field. The wife's family, they were deniers. They denied everything, denied it ever happened. They forgave the husband and chopped my sister down. Mayor smiled a wan smile, but she grew back. The strong ones always do. I visit her sometimes where she stands dangling her roots just above the high water mark along Impatient Creek. Her bark is so pretty and she shines in the spring. She turned to me. It didn't work, she said. What didn't work? I came up here to die in a young man's, a pretty boy's arms. But here I am, still alive. Well, that made me angry. What's wrong with being alive? Well, nothing. It has its uses. Did you expect the river to rise once again, higher and higher, all the way up to the bluff and sweep us away, I asked. I didn't expect the river to do anything. I could tell that like some kind of high queen, she was going to dismiss me, to tell me to move along, to go find greener pastures, or a girl who could cook, or a woman who could read a map. Maybe I wouldn't end up standing back on the bluff above the edge of the wrong side of the river. She'd tell me, why don't you become an explorer, and head upstream and search for the sources, all those sources of rivers and lakes and swamps and dreams. She would argue that for whatever she was waiting, it was not mine to wait for, and I disagreed. It is hard to fall in love with a river nymph. At some point, she will lead you to deep waters. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Next, please welcome Tyler Frederick.
I have a new piece I'm going to read. I've never read it before. It's called Freedom or Loneliness. Phantoms and thanatos, I've seen a ghost with your death mask. Painted cheeks, defeat, it's the flavor of the weak, and I've lost my taste for that bitter bolete. Just give me that fire, baby, give me that heat. What are the secrets that you keep? It's killing me softly, I can't sleep it off, it's exhausting. If these walls could talk, they would scream out your name. I guess I'm always to blame, 'cause I come running towards you when I should walk away. That pit in my stomach, a forbidden fruit, all the future I stole from my youth. If you wanted the truth, I was like, give me the loot, but it's fool's gold. I know how this will go, it's the same old, same old. I always tell myself, you never do what you're told. No, I will not name names, and nobody blameless, we're both playing games. Are you playing for keeps? Are you playing to win? I had my fill getting spun, you seem ready to spin. If I touch you, maybe I'll always want you, but I forego my needs. Does it haunt you to know that my dreams turn to nightmares? And When the world ends, I'll be right there, stuck in your night chair, waiting for light just to blind me, and I'll lead the way with the naked behind me. You say it, you fake it, I know better. It's time I behave, dig up out of this grave. I think our old song, it's been overplayed. Been here before, I can find my own way. If there's nothing to be said, I've got nothing to say.
Thanks, Tyler. Please welcome Wesley Pinland.
This was probably the last time I'm going to read this one out loud. It is an election one, but it's a breakup poem for my mom. It's 1 vote, 2 votes, red votes, blue votes. You say what we decide shouldn't be a reason to divide, but it's a little hard not to divide when you're already chastised, when you're already cast aside, when you're already marginalized, can't vote across an aisle, can't write in the margins, like my whole life is just a side note, a freakish sideshow to be forgotten. Because God forbid you colored outside your lines, but I'm supposed to be fine. You want to go back to another time when love was something that the Bible defined, when birth mortality rates were sky high, when minorities were kept in binds, when a man was the only one doing a daily grind. What exactly do you want to go back to? And you can sit there and say, it isn't me, it's them. You can abide by lies, give a ballot an alibi, but in the end, I am them. And in the end, you cast your love, and your love for me is not worth loving me. Every tally for hate is another reminder of how much I am hated by the United States of you. And you say it isn't personal, but I take it personally. Because you don't have a good reason. Somehow it's all turned into a competition. My gold prize is being treated as human. Yours is making sure someone is less than. You say you worried that my life would be harder, but the only reason that it is because it's used as a political barter. Don't want me to drown, but you put my head underwater. Mark me a black sheep and lead me out to slaughter. I can't trust someone whose leader threatens my life on day one. I can't trust someone whose vote is a noose around my throat. But we shouldn't allow it to divide us. You say make America great again, but what you really mean is give America hate again, let America rape again, help America slave again, putting minorities in their place again until you're at peace in your own white skin. And you pledge allegiance to a flag. Stand tall with your hand on your heart, but I'm afraid you dropped the ball because you mumbled that part about liberty and justice for all. You'd rather build a wall, give excuses for catcalls, see students gunned down in halls, see trans kids never kick balls, amp up hurricane destruction and fall, than support freedom and justice for all. I'm not a thing to be voted from existence. Not a policy or law can stop my resistance, but you dance with my rights with such insistence. I don't like cancer, but voting away chemo is not the answer. And maybe that's the truth. Dividing from you is my truce, so I don't have to look too hard for proof of hoping you love me before you tighten that noose. You have the right to choose. Consequences will shake loose, and your love will be deduced. You never could protect me from abuse, so what is the use? You say it isn't personal, but I take it personally. A girl walks into a 4th grade class and is told she will have a baby one day, but it sounds more like any day. Her womb will not be barren. She's told this without any doubt, without any proof, just the unwavering knowledge that it is happening. The girl has known this. The girl is trained for this. She has changed doll diapers and married Barbies to Kens. She has been told the plan so many times that she could probably start today. Since she could comprehend words before light was luminous to her eyes, when the first toy was a doll to be cared for, before her life truly began, she was training to birth another. A wild child, impregnated with the thought of domestication, assassins cutting the umbilical childhood from her sacred haven. A girl walks into a class and learns boys don't have babies. They don't practice feeding plastic mouths, aren't told they'd make excellent fathers, or pretty babies, or good husbands. The girl walks out of the class, a waif of purpose, unable to process the deglutition of gender roles, because in this story, the girl is me. And there is no girl, but I am told that I will make an excellent little mother. I am 4 years old, and a stranger tells me I have pretty eyes, that I will make pretty babies. My love for cooking will make me a good wife, but I am nobody's mother or wife, and I never will be, because they taught me in 4th grade, boys don't have babies. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. Final open micer this evening, Joan Hawkins.
Thank you. Thank you all for staying. So like Lily, I wrote a poem for the Day of the Dead, and this has a trigger warning because it talks about suicide. Too many deaths this year. Peter, such a shock. Jason, well, we expected it, but still it was hard. Reception with dessert trays laid out, tattooed Christians reading us poems in the little hall behind the church. Jenny Kay had a celebration before she died, so the grieving ritual reduced to posts on Facebook and oft-copied obit, a few tattered words shared friend to friend. May her memory be a blessing. You can send donations to the Shalom Center. I keep my mourning close. Last one to post, but I always send cards, donations, a few snippets of memory. Every friend lost is a piece of my life, interred in an urn. Linda's sexy husband David lost to Alzheimer's. Catherine, who loved Dickens and long walks on the beach, cancer. Rose, sweet Rose. The last trip before COVID shut everything down, she offered me a place to stay. Celebrated my book on an author she despised. Crazy laughter in Cafe Trieste when she told me. I don't know how she died. Her son, too grief-stricken to say, just sends photos. Our old professor Fred Cruz, who made a career out of trashing Freud, age 91, died peacefully in the hospital following a brief illness. But still. I wake up from an afternoon nap and see Judith's picture on my phone screen. Sudden death in London. Friends grabbing last-minute plane tickets, rushing to help her devastated husband and bring ashes or body home. What feels true is the wildness of the cumulative, Raven Leilani writes. Bereavement makes a mockery of borders, and it kills narrative. Eulogies tend to the archive of people we have loved, but they don't move the story forward, and they don't give closure. My granddaughter tried to commit suicide. Her sister, alarmed by social media, called the police. They broke in the door and she survived. But still, she carries that black kernel of near death inside her. The knowledge that she can make the pain stop. The knowledge of how to do it. Once a year, our beloved deceased return to dine with us. Sugar skull, their favorite foods, Dia de los Muertos. I send my granddaughter a silver necklace wrapped in tissue, not to welcome her back, but to keep her with me. You are the soft spot in my heart, I tell her. You can call me anytime. I will come. I will cross the continent. And then I write some nonsense rhymes she loved as a child. I do not mention that William S. Burroughs, the author my friend Rose despised, the crypt keeper of poetic cut-up prose, the grand maestro of magic, Burroughs, taught us that we are, all of us, on the road to the Western lands. I do not mention that it's the Day of the Dead. Thanks.
Thanks, Joan. I'm going to close out with a quick thing that I wrote then we'll be done. So this, I'm in the midst of my 30 and 30, one of my two annual write a poem a day in 30 days. I do one in April, and I do one in April because it's National Poetry Month, and I do a poem a day in November because it's National Novel Writing Month. And I started doing it in solidarity with my novel writing friends. So this was a poem a day. This was the poem for the 13th of November, and I was in Las Vegas doing a performance gig, and this was about that. This is just a big collage about the time I spent in Las Vegas, which is a weird town, city, whatever to be in. So this is just about all. This goes in a lot of different directions, but just bear with me. No title yet. Approach me, shirtless, with stubbly chest, for Tuesday is a low maintenance day. Obvious lack of showgirls, they put the cuffs on anyway. Forgive my stealth photography. I've been commissioned by the state. Approach yokels and see who opens a wallet and who's still cool. You have to laugh at yourself through the split-in desert wind, wearing away nothing. Nothing. Perhaps a body Lake Mead just gave up, forgotten in the 70s. Does anybody last long? Does anything last long? Taking C notes from one machine, putting C notes into another machine. I pray for penny slots so I can lose longer. iPhone flashlight pointed at each seat number. Late arrival, plenty open, but I'm honest. You're not supposed to touch, but they can touch all they want, is how it works legally. I think I am in love with violence like I love winning. An abstract I interpret to give a price tag meaning. Look, professional photographers know what they're doing, not just some hayseed with a phone. The discounts go deeper the more you say no, and all under pinking Roman skies, beside statuary heavy with symbolism and uncircumcised cock. None of this means anything beside the opulence of bait. I love a spectacle. The bigger and dumber, the better the plumbing. No hot water on Sunday morning, though. We are getting ready for church. Emoji god of rolled eyeballs, forsaking the 9-iron shank. No one brags about the size of a salad in Flavortown. The highlight is watching him house a hoagie in 3 huge bites. No editing, all live. A Ferris wheel crawling Ouroboros, devouring 40 at a time, max capacity that is. More romantic with 2, to be sure. But they're still watching you, is how you know you're having fun. Someone hustling you out when your time is up. And thus ends our second Thursday spoken word series, our special Indiana pop-up Chitlin Circuit second Thursday spoken word series, curated by Indiana Poet Laureate Crisler. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to Ross being here. Thanks to Hiromi Yoshida for being one of our features. And thanks to all of our open micers, and thanks to Backspace for having us. Be sure and come back next month, Thursday, December 12th. Thank you all, and have a good night. Thank you.